I know it's hard for a lot of us to find the time to listen to a whole podcast or to watch one if you're watching this on YouTube, which you shouldn't be, but that's okay. This is a clip that I enjoyed from the episode and hope you find it valuable too. Enjoy.
So I opted for a bio majors and
Okay.
an MBA.
Say.
So that kind of gave me the drift into the brand world.
Okay.
And once I started looking at brands, because when you're doing and managing the single P, which is the promotional side within
Yeah.
an ad agency, because I worked on the strategic planning division also.
You got
So
access
I
to.
looked at the other Ps. I interacted with the various
Yeah.
departments, the distribution department, the production departments of the brands that I was working on. I heard the story of those brands from the people who had
Yeah.
set those brands up,
Yeah.
and I saw how they've evolved over time.
Yeah.
So all that gave me that strategic aspect and view, a holistic view. So that's why I opted for
So-
studying brand.
So how long were you in this agency?
About 3 to 4 years.
And it's in those 3 years where you started getting exposure, connecting the dots between the product, the promotion, the price, all of those things.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and then that's how Tapal happened. Then I'm
And
guessing.
actually that's how, yes, exactly. So while I was at the agency, I enrolled for my MBA program, and simultaneously I also got an offer from the FMCG. So there I got an opportunity to work on the brand and simultaneously study the concept. So I was working
Real
and I
world
was
application
studying.
happening.
Yeah, in a way.
But this is very interesting because even now you're working. When you described your experience at the stock exchange, also you said you entered thinking about facelifting the brand, making it more, for the lack of a better word, trying to make it sexier as well, trying to make it more palatable for everyone around, right? Or identifying the right target audience and designing it for them. How did you start connecting the dots that your brand, right, which oftentimes ends up becoming a very subjective conversation, can have some very objective results? How did you track that? Or how do you still track that as well?
See, a brand is not just advertising and communication. That is what the perception is
Yeah.
generally, and everybody thinks that they can make brands and build brands.
Yeah.
Brand is a promise. It is the product in itself. It's nothing else. I mean, the promotion part comes later. It is
Yeah.
what the product is. Who is it designed for? Who are the consumers? What are the inherent needs that that particular brand is actually addressing? And what is that brand promise?
Yeah.
Now, unless you have those things in place, any brand is just a commodity, unless you have a differentiation.
Yeah.
What is your promise to your consumers? And okay, ek end pe there's this promise thing. This is communication, telling you, making the brand, making it available. The second part is and which will complete the circle, is the experience. Once the consumer has engaged with your brand, they've used it, what was the experience like? That will build the loyalty. That'll give the repeat business. So branding is not limited to only creating a product and communicating about it. It's the whole business ideology.
So why?
And that's why businesses exist.
Yeah, and they continue to, right? Like that's
Exactly.
I think you and I can still understand what you're saying as well, but let's try to break this down a little bit further as well. Now, when you look at the lifespan of a business, right, you can see that it's at every point in that business, the brand oftentimes comes into question, right? And I'm also trying to say brand as an umbrella term for every side of the business, all factors of it, all facets of it. But along the way, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of disrespect towards the word brand, or towards the brand identity, or towards building that promise and that trust consistently. And oftentimes we don't give credit to the fact that even in the back end finance department as well is where the consumer experience is dictated.
Yeah.
How do you feel businesses, in your experience also, because how do you feel that businesses work towards solving that, or how have you worked towards making sure that there is this consistency, or there's this sense of respect towards the brand in all areas of it? because at the end of the day, the output of that business is the consumer experience or is the product itself, which goes back into the business as well for more innovation or more development to happen.
You see, it's an ever evolving scenario. I would say brands have to evolve with the customer needs. Going back to the organization, there are very successful brands, and those successful brands either they're owned by and run by those owners, and they are constantly evolving those brands. If you
Yeah.
look at Pakistan or even internationally, or on the other hand, there are systems and processes whereby the organization is fixated on investing in the brand. All the others, they will die, or they'll erode their identity or their equity, because they people don't believe in that. They think brand is a cost center, whereas brand is an investment. Basically, building the brand is an investment, because it will guarantee you the repeat sale. The customer will ask for it, you will not have to sell it. When there's a I mean, let's put it in that way. A brand has the ability to command a premium.
Discounts don't
Otherwise,
work.
if you're not a brand, they will haggle with you for price.
Yeah.
On price. But if you're a brand, whatever your price tag is, there is a high perceived value, and customers are willing to pay that price.
Yeah, it's like getting a bottle of water. It's like getting a water bottle from JB Said versus Gul Plaza.
Versus Gold Plaza, exactly.
Yeah,
Or go for a Nike T-shirt out of a Nike flagship
Yeah,
store versus
yeah.
a Zena Market T-shirt.
Uh-huh.
But that Nike store promises you a certain quality, a certain durability, a certain originality, authenticity about it, and that gives you that confidence. Versus when you buy something of Zena Market, and okay, it's not the perfect item.
Yeah.
It's not the brand. So you know that. And your perceived value is also. So you will haggle for that. You may, because, you don't put that price tag onto that particular product. Or let's even look at our courier brands for that matter. You walk into a courier store, a shop, you will not argue. You walk into a Khadi, you will not argue on the price.
Yeah.
Whatever the tag is, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Versus you go to a Pathan Kapde Wala, and in one of these, malls, you will haggle with them on the price, because the perceived value is not that.
But I think what I'm trying to get at though is there's one way of seeing, and this is the common notion is that the investment in brand, you said, right? Your brand is oftentimes associated with being the face front of the business. But then the way you've also described it previously is that the brand is not only the face front of the business. It's a matter of how the ship is running or how all the systems are running as well to build up a great face forward as well. Yeah. How have you worked with businesses in the past to actually get that reverse engineered to kind of tweak other areas within the business too? Because I get what you're saying, that you have to look at the customer value throughout. Every step of the way, every input that's going into the product has to be tweaked, or the customer experience has to be thought about.
Yeah.
But there's one way about us saying that. There's another way to implement that as well. So I'm curious to know, how have you implemented that in the past?
It's more like advocacy within the organization. You have to talk to the finance people, tell them that,
change their belief system.
Yes. You have to talk to the production people, understand what goes into it, what kind of efforts they are doing, and what do they have in perspective. You have to share the customer insights with them, that, nowadays you need this kind of customer. This is what the customers are looking at. So how can you tweak your offering? So one example, I think I've given that example elsewhere also. Like if you look at Tapal Danedar today, they were in a brown pack, soft pack with a brown colored paper packaging. That packaging was very high end at that time also, because before the international competitor went into that kind of packaging, Tapal was the first one to bring in inside foil, which would retain the freshness of the tea. But the customers didn't see it. They couldn't understand it. Because of the exterior, their packaging being a soft pack was perceived to be a
Inferior good.
inferior brand. And the users who are more concentrated in the south part of the country, because they were already accustomed and acquainted with the brand, it didn't matter to them. But when they tried to expand into the central and the north part of the country, they faced that dilemma and the perception. So now, how do you address it? Unless that feedback comes to the organization, immediate, what do? You can't change all your machines and bring in a hard pack right away, because that needs a lot of investment. It means changing your entire production, setup. What do? You first address those concerns by showing. So, we went on to a series of documentaries in those areas. We went into distributor sessions where we showed those documentaries. We went into, and that whole thing evolved. We changed the packaging, the color from brown to red. At least it could beat the yellow of the competitor brand. So all these steps were taken whilst planning for the longer term changeover. And that whole transition then later on took place.
Okay.
So what do? You go back to the basics, to the drawing board, and you need to convince the management, whoever's involved, whoever the stakeholders are, whether it's the production team, whether it's the finance team, whether it's the product manufacturing team, I don't know. I mean, whoever's involved in it, whether it's the owner or the Seth Saab there. So they have to be convinced to it about it.
If you like this, help me grow the channel, help me find more guests, help me find more listeners out there in the world just like yourself. So don't forget to subscribe and pass this episode on to your friends and family.